What's going on, guys? It's your average consumer, and today we've got a showdown. We're gonna be comparing the brand new Beats X versus the JayBird X3s. You guys practically begged me for this, so let's do this. So in typical showdown fashion, we've got to start off with the design. And since the Beats X are newer, we'll start with these. As you can see, it has this new flex form cable, which pretty much sits around your neck, and the earbuds pretty much just chill here, which actually is pretty nice in terms of keeping them in, but we'll get on that in a bit. But they do have these two interesting little, I don't know, lumps over here, I guess you can say, for lack of a better term. But this is where you charge them, you have your power switch, the battery's probably inside of there as well. So it's got an interesting look to it, but honestly, I think that the JayBird X3s look quite a bit cleaner. These are really sleek. It only has the inline remote and it has a pretty short cable, so it'll go around the neck. Put these in, and these are really, really low key. So in terms of design and looks, I think I'm gonna give it to the X3s. I like how low profile they are, and there's not a lot of cable to mess around with. Really short, easy, boom. And it's funny because Beats has this reputation of focusing on looks over function, and with these I feel like it's kind of the opposite, which leads to the next category, which is comfort. Now, I've said it in previous videos that I was never a fan of earbuds with this neckband design. Goes around your neck, kind of sits there. Whenever I saw people with it, what was it, like the LG Tones, I believe? Those were the first ones that really came out with this kind of look. I always thought it looked really weird, but man, after trying it, my mind has been changed. To me, this is completely function over form. All of the earbuds that I've tried with this neckband design, I've had no issues with earbuds falling out because there's no extra weight being pulled down on it, like with something with the X3s. Now the X3s, even though it has a very short cable, it still has this inline remote, so whenever you're running around with them, there's a good chance it might fall out just due to straight up gravity, where that's not an issue here. But to be completely honest, just like with my JayBird X2s, when I use the included foam tips, these have a much better time staying in my ear, but they still don't compare to having something like this around your neck, giving it some extra support. Not to mention, these earbuds are pretty solid and they stay in the ear with no problem. So I gotta give it to the Beats X in terms of comfort. Now in terms of what you get, you've got very similar items all across. You of course have your ear tips in case you want to switch up the size. The X3s also come with foam tips, which I find very useful because it helps it to stay in my ears a bit better. I don't really need that with the Beats X since it has that flex form cable, but if you need a really secure fit, they both also include wingtips. But to me, I think the real key difference here are these travel cases. In my video about the Beats X, I wasn't too crazy about the travel case because it doesn't close all the way. You can't really seal this. While the X3s, the case has this magnetic clamp so that you can have everything stuffed right inside of here and not worry about anything falling out. Not quite the case with the Beats X case. Took case twice, but that's okay. And the X3s also come with these little clips if you want to make your cable shorter. So in terms of accessories, the travel case was a pretty big deal to me, so I gotta give it to the X3s. Now in terms of battery life, you'd probably think this is a tie because they both feature about 8 hours of playback, but I've got to give it to the Beats X for a couple of reasons. The Beats X introduced this fast fuel feature that allows you to get 2 hours of playback with 5 minutes of charging, which is crazy. So imagine this, you're driving to the library or the gym or wherever, and you realize you forgot to charge these last night. Plug them in your car for 5 minutes and you've got 2 solid hours of playback. That's the kind of thing that changes the way you look at the battery life. And let's talk about the way you charge these. The Beats X uses a lightning cable, a very common cable, and if you happen to be an iPhone owner, chances are you'll already have a spare, so easy to charge. Even if you forget both cables, there's a good chance you can borrow someone else's. So charging this is no problem. But with the X3s, they've got a proprietary cable, which means it's going to be a lot harder to charge these in case you forgot them. So if you're on a trip or something and you forgot this little adapter, there's gonna be a good chance you're not gonna be able to use your X3s once they die. You're not gonna find somebody carrying this guy around. So being able to charge the Beats X with a lightning cable is a huge win over the X3's proprietary cable, because if you forget this, you're pretty screwed, or even if you lose it, you've gotta go and buy another one, which costs like 10 bucks. But even as of right now, this is sold out on their site, so you're gonna be pretty screwed if anything happens to this. and I'm sure that's a deal breaker for a lot of people. So in terms of battery and charging, I've got to give it to the Beats X. Now let's talk about these features. These are both obviously Bluetooth earbuds, so they're wireless. They got all the Bluetooth features, inline remote, yada yada, control your music without touching your phone. Typical stuff, but they've got some special things up their sleeves. And let's start off with Beats X again. So with the Beats X, if you happen to be an iPhone user, you got the W1 chip, which makes the initial pairing of it very smooth and very simple. All you've got to do is power it on next to your iPhone, a little screen will pop up, you press connect, and boom, you're done. You got it paired, super simple, and that's the only time you have to use this feature, but it makes pairing super fast and super easy. But what's really cool about this feature is that if you're in the Apple ecosystem, you can connect it to any other device that's connected to your iCloud account, which could completely eliminate the pairing process for a lot of devices. So to me, I think that's a really awesome feature. I of course already mentioned that fast fuel, which is pretty insane and really helpful. And they've also got a magnetic clasp for both earbuds. So it should stop them from shifting all over the place, keeps them together nice and neat, got some good cable management going. But with the X3s, if you decide to stop listening for a bit and you leave them on your neck like this, I've had the experience of these falling off from walking around, so you've got to be careful with that. Something you don't have to worry about with the Beats. But let's talk about the X3's features. I think one of the biggest ones right now is that these are sweat proof. So if you plan on using these for the gym a ton and you happen to sweat profusely, these will not clunk out on you because of that. Personally, I don't sweat a ton when working out, but it's nice to have that extra insurance. And while being sweat proof might not be a big deal to me, the app that this thing has available definitely is. Within that app, you're able to switch up the sound quality of the X3s at the drop of a hat. So if you happen to like a little bit more bass, you can switch that up and get that. Or maybe if you like it toned down a bit more, you can switch it up to get whatever kind of sound quality you're looking for out of these, and it handles that really well. While that's a really cool feature, it's geared towards the more advanced user. I can't imagine the average person picking up a pair of X3s is gonna jump into the app and start tweaking all the settings so they can get the right sound quality. If I gave this to someone like Ari, she'd probably use this as is, wouldn't touch a thing. And I gotta say guys, it is really hard to pick a winner between the two of these because they both have some really awesome features, but I think I gotta go with the Beats X because that W1 chip and the fast fuel feature definitely sold me. And here's an easy category, price. Beats X go for $150, the X3s go for $130. $20 difference, X3s win. Now if we've tallied up each category, you'd notice we've got a bit of a tie going on, but we haven't talked about sound, which is one of the most important categories. Now after testing these both out quite a bit, my findings were very, very surprising. Beats has this reputation of being all bass and nothing else, but the Beats X actually sounded very clear, and the bass was punchy, but definitely not overwhelming. Songs had a nice amount, but definitely very contained. But with the X3s on their signature sound, without jumping into the app and changing any of the settings, these have way more bass than the X's, and I was shocked to see that. I love bass, so I don't mind, but if you're not into a lot of bass, you're gonna have to jump into the X3's app and change that. Now, this is kind of where I give the X3s a leg up. The fact that you're able to jump into the app and start tuning it and changing all kinds of things like the bass and all the treble, all that stuff, you can change that here, but you don't have that flexibility with the Beats X. So because you have the ability to customize this to the perfect sound for you, I gotta give sound quality over to the X3s. And since sound was the tiebreaker for the showdown, the overall winner are the X3s. But let's be completely honest here guys, this was not an easy showdown by any means, and they both actually have some deal breakers between them that could swing your choice in any direction. The fact that these aren't sweat proof, that might be a deal breaker for a lot of people, and for the X3s, that weird charging situation, that's something that a lot of people don't want to deal with. And personally, I think I'd have an easier time grabbing the X's, and not because they're Beats, but just because of the convenience of being able to grab these, charge them with the lightning cable, and heck, even if we weren't talking about the X's, even something like my Sony's over here, I'd grab these over the JayBirds too. Convenience is starting to be a big deal for me, especially since I travel a lot. So something that uses a micro USB to charge or a lightning cable is a lot easier than this. But these are still the winner. But hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Shout out to the X3s for taking the win today. If you enjoyed it, be the cool guy or girl that gives this video a thumbs up. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Till then, it's your average consumer. Peace.